All right, which one tastes better? Are you tastier? Or do you taste better? Oh, you're a little skittish though. So today, I am on my way up to the northern part of the state to visit my sister, where we're going to test a theory. And pardon the fact that I'm milking a cow. You're probably thinking, all right, well, why am I doing a video about a sheep but I'm milking my cow? Well, it's simple. I got chores to do, so I'm trying to multitask and use my time wisely. But today we're going to be doing a video about sheep, and that's going to be hair sheep versus wool sheep. Which one tastes better? Is there a taste difference, and if so, why? And so what we're going to do is we're going to go, I have wool sheep, my sister has a hair sheep. We're going to make some hamburgers, and we're going to just straight up make the patty, put it on, no seasoning, no spices, no nothing. And we're going to compare, at least for two of the patties, which one tastes better and if we can even notice a difference. So the prevailing theory is that hair sheep tend to taste better, particularly for Americans, than wool sheep. And that has to deal with lanolin. So the lanolin is an oil that's secreted on the sheep's skin, or wool sheep skin. But this lanolin is said to impart a flavor on the sheep. And now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, okay, well, how can a oil on the skin and the wool affect the flavor of the meat? And what that has to deal with is that has to do with the absorption of that oil into the skin and then the transportation of that flavor into the fat. So fat tends to retain a lot of flavors. Like if you're a person who loves beef and you love marbled, delicious beef, which is why I try and grain finish as best I can. But that marbling is where you get a lot of the flavor from. And as that lanolin gets down in contact with the skin will absorb it. It will then go into the fat, and that fat and that flavor will be transported into the intramuscular fat of the sheep. And it's also said that wool sheep tend to have more fat than hair sheep. So combination of the lanolin plus more intramuscular fat means that that flavor of the lanolin, that lamb, stereotypical lamb and sheep flavor, is going to be in the meat more so of a wool sheep than a hair sheep. And that's another difference with the wool and the hair. They say a grain-fed hair sheep tends to look or have the same marbling and fat content as a grass-fed wool sheep. So here's the wool sheep, hair sheep. You can kind of take a look at the fat comparison between the two. Now this hair sheep was fed a lot of grain. The wool sheep was fed almost no grain whatsoever. So we're going to be looking at these two things. We're going to be checking to see what the fat is of the two ground pieces of lamb and then what that flavor is to deal with it. And now whether or not that flavor is good or worse is really going to come down to personal preference. There are certain ethnicities, like Kentuckians, who prefer mutton. And mutton is lamb, that lamb flavor on steroids. And there are some other ethnicities that prefer the mutton flavor as well. Where I'm from in America, we tend to prefer milder foods, which is why lamb is more popular in America than mutton. However, I love lamb. I love the flavor of lamb. While I've never had mutton, I do enjoy the flavor of a nice lamb steak. So I'm going to finish up milking here. We're going to make us some hamburgers with some lamb, and we're going to see which one tastes better.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so here we have the final product. We have wool sheep, and we have the hair sheep. So let's see how they taste. It's definitely lamb. Has that very distinct lamb flavor to it, slightly gamey, as some people would say. And you can definitely tell that it is in fact lamb. So now let's compare that to the hair sheep. First, we'll kind of cleanse the palate a little with some sweet tea. All right, here we go. be honest, the hair sheep might as well have been beef. There was a very ever so slight lamby sheep flavor to it, but it was hardly noticeable. So there's definitely a big difference between the wool sheep and the hair sheep, and at least in terms of flavor. So, oh man, I'm out of breath from catching this one. Okay, so to summarize, there is a difference between a hair sheep and wool sheep in terms of flavor. And that comes down to both lanolin production, getting into the skin and getting into the fat, giving it that stereotypical lamb flavor. And the other one just being the fact that wool sheep tend to produce more fat than hair sheep. So if you're someone who likes that lamby flavor, definitely recommend wool sheep. If you're someone who doesn't necessarily like that lamby flavor, go with the hair sheep. So I, however, think you are going to be really tasty. And I'm looking forward to when you're getting slaughter and weight. So I hope you like, subscribe, and stick around for more content. Hey ladies.